And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
As the commissioner said, this information is preliminary. The investigation is still ongoing. But what we know so far is that our shooter has been identified as Bernardo Raul Castro Mata. He is 19 years old. He has no prior arrest in New York City. However, he is the suspect in several robbery patterns currently going on in the borough of Queens. This shooter currently resides at 90-10 Ditmars Boulevard, the former Courtyard Marriott Hotel, now being operated as the Landing Family Shelter. During tonight's incident, Castro Mata was observed illegally operating an unregistered motorbike the wrong way down a one-way street. Similar scooters and bikes are being used citywide to commit crimes. These crimes include shootings, robberies, and phone snatches. Many of these crimes have all been committed by the perpetrators riding on scooters and motorbikes. Just to paint you a quick picture of how many of these crimes are being committed, January 1st to June 1st, 2022, 0 robbery patterns involving motorized scooters or motorcycles. The same time period, 2023, 20 robbery patterns. Year to date so far this year, January 1st to June 1st, 2024, we have over 80 robbery patterns citywide involving incidents where the perpetrators are riding motorized scooters or motorcycles. That's over 80 robbery patterns alone, encompassing over hundreds and hundreds of incidents. The shooter, as the commissioner said, is currently at New York Presbyterian Queens Hospital, and he's being treated for the gunshot wound to his right leg. He's expected to survive.
So that was the NYPD Chief of Detective Joseph Kent. So what did he say there? He was explaining what happened this morning at 0140 hours. Today's June 3rd, 2024. This is the Crime and Politics edition of the Finest Unfiltered, brought to you by New York's Finest, Retired and Unfiltered podcast. I'm your host, John McCary. And I just want to get into this a little bit because it's highly disturbing what we're being told and what it actually is. This whole perception versus reality game that is being played out on the political stage with New York City Mayor Eric Adams and his appointed management, not only in the NYPD, but with other agencies as well, is causing a big problem when it relates to public safety in New York City. So we had 2 police officers shot, 2 police officers, both 26 years old. They were patrolling in Elmhurst, Queens last night when they spotted an individual, an illegal immigrant, driving the wrong way down a street. They were in Elmhurst, Queens. The street was 23rd Avenue and 89th Street. He's coming down the wrong street. He's coming down the wrong way. When they observe him, they attempt to pull the individual over. He does not pull over. Why they pull him over? Vehicles unregistered, and he's creating numerous traffic infractions, right? Driving down the one way is a hazard. On top of that, they were assigned to the public safety team of the NYPD, which means they were out there trying to combat criminal patterns, right? Many of those patterns, what we just heard Chief Kenny say, was that 80 robbery patterns in New York City now involve motorized scooters or motorcycles. Very disturbing. Why is that disturbing? Because when New York City Mayor Eric Adams was inaugurated, when people were very critical, telling you not to vote for this man, his sanctuary city laws that he said that he would hold true to, like his predecessor, the commie Bill de Blasio, people like Rudy Giuliani said this is unsustainable, doesn't right to shelter and sanctuary city laws should not apply to the entire world. It's unsustainable. New York City will fail. You will import the third world here, and you will become the third world. And that is exactly what's happening in New York City. New York City imported the third world under Eric Adams, and is now seeing third world crime problems. Again, what did Chief Kenny say? There were zero robbery patterns involving scooters or motorized vehicles or motorcycles. The preceding year, there were 20 as crime rose in New York City. continued to rise in New York City, because it was up under Bill de Blasio. It was up during COVID, and it went up again after New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who said he ran on a common sense, moderate platform to bring down crime. Crime went up significantly in his first year. It went up significantly again in his second year, even though we were told crime is down, and we continue to hear from the appointed management, the NYPD, how they brought crime down, and they're continuing to do so. But what happened last year? This year, in the same time period, January 1st of 2024 to June 1st of 2024, they have over 80 robbery patterns involving scooters, or motorized vehicles, or motorcycles that we never had in the past. These are things you hear about if someone's traveling to Colombia. They tell you, tuck your jewelry in. Don't walk around with your phone. Don't have a fancy watch on. These people are just going to roll up with you on a scooter, and they're going to rob you. They're going to rob you with firearms, with knives, or they're going to overpower you because there's going to be a group of them. And that's what's happening in New York City. Unlike what John Schell has told all of us, right? John Schell has told us a completely different story when he went on Dr. Phil, that they believe that was 10 days ago. If you go to Dr. Phil Primetime on his YouTube channel, you could see that interview with Chief John Schell, where Chief John Schell sits down on the stage with him and says that, we had a problem with people being robbed off of mopeds, but we caught the one guy that did it back in January, and, it basically ceased since then. I don't know. Maybe he misspoke. I don't know, but maybe I'm interpreting it wrong. But to me, I interpreted that as we no longer have this problem with mopeds in New York City. Yet, wherever I go in New York City, whether it be Bay Ridge, Manhattan, wherever it is, I see numerous traffic infractions happening from illegal, unregistered vehicles, scooters, all over the place by people who appear to be here illegally. Now, do I know that everyone's here illegally? No, but we should know. But why don't we know? Because sanctuary city laws prohibit the NYPD from even asking. On top of prohibiting the NYPD from asking, what else do they do? When the person is arrested, yes, the NYPD is not allowed to ask. But if for some reason we know that this person's in here illegally, we're not allowed to work with ICE or cooperate with ICE. Why? Sanctuary city laws that Eric Adams has swore to uphold in his administration. He's now, because people are complaining an election year is coming, he's trying to back off of it, but he's doing it very slowly. And even though he wants to back off of it, he still tells us all, he still tells every single one of us that he wants the borders to remain open. The borders should remain open. He said that on October 3rd, 2023. He told us the borders should remain open. That is the official position of this city. I'm going to play it for you again right now so that you could hear. I'm not making this stuff up. October 3rd, 2023, Eric Adams states this. Ready? Let's play New York City Mayor Eric.
We believe the borders should remain open. That's the official position of this city, but we have made it clear there should be a decompression strategy that we could properly deal with the volumes that's coming into our city, and no cities should have to carry the burden of the national government.
So I beg to differ here. I believe that New York City should carry the burden of the federal government, Eric. It's actually not the national government. That's something that they use in communist states like China. They call themselves the national government. We call ourselves the federal government here in America. I know you're not too familiar with our laws, but we do have border security laws. So as much as he likes to hide behind certain laws and say, I can't do nothing, he's completely fine with our immigration laws being broken, right? He's completely fine with those laws. He completely ignores them. Why? Because it's party lines. And what did he say there? He told you the borders should remain open. So if the borders are remaining open, how could we possibly stop the flow of illegal criminals entering our borders? They're unvetted. We don't know who they are. We don't know if Venezuela opened their jails. We've heard numerous reports that crime's down significantly in Venezuela, and it's rising here. We don't know any of these things, but Eric Adams thinks it's a great strategy. Eric Adams is also the person who labeled himself, self-proclaimed Biden of Brooklyn. So he supports open borders. He still supports sanctuary city laws. He supports right to shelter law. He continues to incentivize the entire world to go to New York City. So, but what Eric Adams is saying in that video is he's saying, no, I shouldn't. I support all of those things because I'm a progressive Democrat and I support Joe Biden. And this is me. Look at me. I support all these things, but I just don't want to be responsible for all of it. I want the entire country to be responsible for the failures of Joe Biden that I support and that I welcome and that I cheerlead him for in New York City. Right? That's what I'm hearing. On top of that, what else do we hear? We hear this 19-year-old who's here legally driving around on a scooter at 01:40 a.m. completely contradicts what John Schell has stated, that the robberies have stopped. Because I don't think he's just driving around at 01:40 a.m. in the morning on a June day, nice and warm. I don't think he's doing it just for a joyride and then shooting at cops when they pull him over. No, I believe he had nefarious intentions, more than likely to rob people of their possessions, which completely contradicts what NYPD Chief of Patrol John Schell has stated. We also hear that while he was arrested and convicted of no crimes here in the state since he's been here, what did we hear? He was implicated in several robberies across New York City. What would have happened in the past? If we didn't have the evidence, if he was a subject of an investigation, he would be what? Deported. We would contact ICE. ICE would go wherever he is and deport him. If he was arrested prior to that happening, we would contact ICE and ICE would deport him. Again, it would be hard for him to come over because we would have border security, unlike what Eric Adams is suggesting here. So when I hear this administration supports cops, when I hear public safety is the prerequisite to prosperity, which I agree with, by the way, it makes me laugh because Eric Adams clearly doesn't support the rank and file of the NYPD. He's bringing dangerous felons here that have no problem shooting cops. We have heads washing up on shore in New York City. We have people who are now tucking their chain in, not wearing their watches, not wearing their wedding bands, and are afraid to walk with their cell phones in their hand, whether it be in their ear, which I don't recommend you do, or even just in their hand. We're turning into the third world because we've imported the third world. So we're seeing third world crime here in New York City. Something that Eric Adams doesn't want to admit. It's a complete failure. I'm praying for these officers. They were out there doing the job that we paid and trained them to do. Unfortunately, we're not backing them because we cannot be honest. Because when you look at this panel and you hear, all of a sudden they're going to tell the truth now. When you hear them tell the truth, it's not really, there's parts of it that are missing. The part is that no one called that individual an illegal. Not Pat Hendry in the back. Pat, please shave your head. Hair looks terrible, bro. You are, whatever speech class they gave you in the beginning, I hope that you continue to go to them, because as much as I didn't like Pat Lynch, as much as a phony as he was, that you signed the check for, but he snuck the donation to Governor Kathy Hochul for $50,000 without making an endorsement during the last government race. He was a much better speaker than you and gave a much more powerful presence up on that podium. I believe he was a phony, but I think he just had a little bit more charisma than you. But again, you're not there. You're not supporting the rank and file because you're not telling the truth of what's going on. No one is identifying these problems, that these sanctuary city laws are now creating a boiling point in New York City, because forget the migrant crime. We had a crime crisis prior to this. When Eric Adams came into office, what did he run on? He ran on that he was going to bring crime down. Why? Because there was already a crime problem in New York City. New York City was changing. It was changing from the Giuliani and Bloomberg era to this progressive socialist utopia where criminals are good guys and the bad guys are police officers, Donald Trump, and anyone who does not align with their message. right? That's the society, and that's what the society is now. This is what we've created. Is it going to make the public safer that we now know cops' disciplinary histories for the rest of eternity, right? Because 50A, when we repealed 50A in New York City, it wasn't just for while you're on the job. It wasn't even while you're in retirement. Even in death, your 50A will always be there. That somehow provides public safety. Is providing public safety letting unvetted males come into the country, come to New York City, giving them everything, walking around with $400 pairs of Jordans on their feet and robbing women and doing much worse than that? Is that public safety? Is that what Eric Adams supports? Because to me, he supports exactly what he said. The border should remain open. That is the official position of this city. This is the first episode of Crime and Politics. We promised you we were going to bring you more and more content, and we are. There's going to be numerous other shows where I'm not going to be on, or Eric will be on and I won't be on. But as we roll out that process, we appreciate you all sticking with us and listening to us. It's important that we don't just listen to the mainstream media, that we listen to independent voices such as myself, Eric Dim, Sal Greco, and numerous other individuals out there, on the ground reporters reporting actually what's going on. But we think it's very important that there's an actual analysis of what's happening in New York City, because we're being told lies. We're not being told the truth. If we're going to honor cops in death, we should also honor them in life. And the way I honor people is by telling the truth and giving my honest opinion. If what I said here today offends anyone, it's really not my problem. It's the truth of what I believe in my heart. And that's what I've been doing since I left my career, because I was deemed too dangerous. I was deemed too much of a danger of spreading COVID-19 around, something that I had a high level of antibodies for, and I continue to have almost over 2 years into retirement, that I was forced into after an 18-year career of being 5.0 rated, never an issue for anyone, and a highly active officer. So that's what we're going to do, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Find us on Unfiltered, baby. We'll be back at you.